So first thing first, how are you?
I'm good.
It's very good to hear. So before we get into the record, I'd like to jump back to where you kind of fell in love with music. And you started playing the piano quite early. What kind of feeling did it might be difficult to describe, but what kind of feeling did it give you that early on?
I think, it's so long time ago, so it feels like far, far away. But I think, in a way, it was some sort of stillness and, okay, sounds funny, but connectedness to something vast, I think.
Because I think your parents put you on, or did you ask for piano lessons?
I don't remember. This I don't remember. I think it must have been my mum, because we got a big grand piano when I was really small.
Okay.
And so I was probably too small to make that decision myself.
But well, that's the thing, because did you like it in a way? Did you like having to go to piano lessons and study?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I have to say, I liked it. I did not practice enough at all, and I still really bad at reading music. I can do it, but it's very slow. But I had this wonderful teacher called Annette, and she got me somehow and found all these pieces for me and just played them for me, and then I learned them by looking at how she played them, and she told me to go and buy the CD. That was in the time of the CD. And that really works for me, like using the ear and then connect to the piece, like only play pieces that connected to you. So your motivation is all the time the sort of falling in love with a piece of music.
So in that sense, did you start coming up with your own compositions and your own melodies quite early on?
Yes, I think, I can't really figure out how it started. I think it had something to do with never practicing. So sometimes I wouldn't know the piece I wanted to play, and then I would just make something up. I also think the first stuff I played was just sounds and just, piano is such an easy instrument to, if it's a nice instrument you have, you can just like, and it's just really nice. So yeah.
And for you, because you do come from a quite a musical family and a creative family, was it and the way you operate or work now is I suppose quite insular in a way, secluded. So did you play a lot with your parents, with your family, and or was it always kind of a thing that you kind of did by yourself?
No, actually, as a kid, I played in band, and we played together, my brother, my father, and me. So it sounded not very good, but it was fun, and the school I went to was very musical. So, yeah, I actually come from playing together with other people.
What did you play with your parents?
I don't remember. I know. So I remember in the band we played Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Prince.
Okay.
And yeah.
And you were playing bass, I believe, right?
The very first one I just sang.
Okay.
But then later there was bass and then piano.
And when did the first kind of songs, not as they are now, but kind of the first songs or melodies try to seep into what you were doing, and you started writing down for something your own in a way?
So I don't know what made me do it, but I started making melodies on piano at some point out of curiosity, I think. And I I very quickly felt there was some sort of storytelling going on in melodies that was interesting, and that was sort of my main interest. I didn't start with lyrics until I was 17, and that was when I started playing in a band with a guy. Yeah, he had a studio, and that was sort of from when I started playing with him. The plan was to make an album, and so we had to write proper sort of songs with lyrics, and I think he made most of the music, and then I made up some melodies, and actually I think he made most of the lyrics. That was just the beginning for me to try to do it.
When you started writing your own lyrics, what did you notice about what came through?
I think I realized that the language changed very much when there's a melody that sings it. It's like the way you sing it informs very much how you feel about the word. And that made me curious. But it's been a long process to become just a little bit happy with the words I'm writing. It's I still feel like I'm in a process of learning to write, to find my language really when I write songs.
And even because you've made a couple albums, you've gone through this process, so to say. So you would assume that would make it easier, but is it still the same kind of difficulties making an album or coming up with new? Or does it get easier?
It doesn't feel like it's getting easier. It's more, I don't know if it's like that for other people. Sometimes I feel like with the instrumental track, you can go in different directions, and as a listening experience, it's more forgiving. It's somehow a more open tradition we have with instrumental music. But with music with words, there's a very rich storytelling tradition going back to the beginning of language or something. So that makes it very powerful, but also very demanding. It's, every little step matters.
Right.
And I think that's the main reason I find making songs with vocal on more demanding. It's like, it's also maybe in the beginning I was just sort of happy that I was able to do it. And now I want the universe, the sound, the production, the way instruments are played, the way I'm singing, I want that to correspond with the lyrical content. So I raised the bar, I guess. Is that the right expression?
No, but that's an interesting way of looking at it, because what is the mindset then when you, for instance, last album done, you've toured it and you're home for I don't know how long, but then that kind of feeling of starting new songs begins. What is the mindset? Do you first kind of figure out where you want to go with it, or do you just start?
It's been I think from the very beginning it's been something that suddenly just appeared, some sort of fluid thing you just jump into and then out of it again, and it's a very strange way. It's not like going into a room, it's more like connecting to something that is there all the time. But then when you start creating themes and in a way create the premises of the album, you enter that stream or that river with an intention. And that is that is wonderful but potentially problematic. Because there's sort of a function to it, and I started doing with the last album, and I've done it with this one too. In a way, I feel this album, the new one, is sort of a second to Citizen Glass,
Okay.
because the theme of this album was a theme I found while I was working on Citizen Glass, and it is still very new for me to work with this intention. Yeah, but I also like not to work like that. It's something very nice to just connect to this this undercurrent.
But in that sense, do you write all the time? Can you write on tour, or is it mostly that you need that time away to tap into, like you say, that stream of inspiration? Or?
I always plan to write on tour, but I never do it. I'm not sure why. I think I'm not able to connect to this undercurrent when there's something going on. I will. I think I'm getting better at it, but okay. When I started making music on my own, really seriously, that was when I write a bit on my own before I moved to Berlin, but it really sort of opened up for me. It was like I cracked the code or something when I moved there, and it was this thing of feeling like I was left alone and forgotten, and it was an immense feeling of freedom that just made me go into jump into the river or whatever you want to say. And I still create that. I still long for it. It's really wonderful. It's like a suspension of time, and also suspension of belief and expectations and all sorts of structures that sort of limit your vision in a way. And yeah.
But it allows you to focus on what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Or is it more like a playground in a way, where it's just trying anything, and because you do experiment with sounds and everything, so is it more like a playground, or do you have an aim when you work?
I have an aim, but sometimes I feel the best things appear when you don't have an aim. So it's just like you're standing in the kitchen and cleaning or something. It's not like I do that so much, but I'm standing doing something practical. And then you're like, okay, procrastinating, for example, I'm just gonna go play the piano a little bit just for fun. And in my experience, that's when the good stuff comes. But you can also go into the studio with an intention and make something as well. I'm still discovering this, and yeah. So it's not like it's something I'm completely sure of.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had the idea of Myopia during the last record. So when did that kind of sentiment or thought pop up in your head?
So I was working on Citizen Glass, and I was so interested in how technology was changing our perspective and changing our perspective of ourselves, our vision. It's sort of very much an album about perceiving things. And I realized that I also skew things when I perceive the world. And this is, in a way, a really wonderful blessing, because it can make me obsess and go into something and make sense of things that I otherwise can't make sense of. But it can also make me go the other direction. Like it's sort of a potential, this sort of skewing of the perception. Yeah, you could call it dark potential. That you can also go down the rabbit hole too far. You know? And I wanted to see if I could create that sense of experience the world in musical form.
And then, because one thing you do on this record is you play, well, it's almost like a perspective. You play around with your voice. You play around with pitches, and what is that like in the studio? Was there one song that kind of functioned as a foundation, as a sense for the rest of the songs, kind of that you knew, okay, this is kind of what I want to do?
Yeah, I think the first song,
Okay.
Cameras Rolling. I want to capture the state of the pressure of being alive, and it can, yeah, the sort of overwhelming feeling that you have to find yourself, your purpose, the reason why you do what you do, and also grasping the fact that everything you do creates waves that will affect other people. And if you really think about that, it can be is it called the butterfly effect?
Sure.
But when you think about that, you can be, or I can be, sort of frozen in the headlights, or it can be so overwhelming. And I wanted to see if I could create that state for the song. So it meant I had changed the key of the song 9 times.
Okay.
And the instrument that's there in the song is not many. The girls in the band thought it was a marimba, but it was a celeste that I pitched, I think 9 semitones up, and then it started sounding like a.
Yeah, because I wondered what that was as well.
Yeah, I really like how it sounds when it's pitched, because the vibration starts to be like woo, and it's also only violin, that's the strings, and they pitch down several octaves, so they also get like this. They're sort of delayed, and and all the choirs are pitched up and down, and. Yeah.
But for instance, when you're working on a song like this, should I picture you in your studio just hours on end, just playing with sounds in a way?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because when you do so, there's technically an infinite amount of things that you can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you kind of figure out what you're doing is good, but also when to not go on tinkering anymore?
I know I did something right when I feel this need to back up my computer, and I'm like, okay, now get the hard disk, so my boyfriend Alex, he has a studio a few floors above me, and if I feel like running up and saying, hey, come, you have to hear this, then I sort of know. Yeah, but it's not certain, but I know I have something that I'm happy with, and but yeah, so with this album, I really changed a lot of things. I changed like Cameras Rolling, the key. I wanted to find the right frequency for my voice and for the instruments, and so it's not like I have a huge amount of faith in what I'm doing, but because it is sort of like it's like a dark room where you're just sort of touching the walls and making slowly sense of what the shape is, and if it's suddenly like, okay, this makes sense to me. This is the universe of the song. Then I will try to finish it. But I also like productions with few elements, like maybe only 3 instruments, and then see some cases it's only been 1 instrument and my voice, and then see if I with processing and with pitching and reamping I could create sort of a new sound. So that's a way of deciding.
Right. And for instance, whenever you start a new album, do you think about new ways to use your voice or new ways to kind of, because of that? Well, let me ask you a little bit simpler. Can you listen in a way to your own voice objectively? Is that?
I'm not sure any of us can.
Right.
It's I think that's a condition of experiencing life and the world. It is a myopic. It's a brain making sense of information, and it's obviously not an objective representation what I'm seeing right now and what I'm hearing, and so actually anything is myopic. And anything a human being is doing, but it's also why it's interesting. But I like to. So I've only done it really with the 2 last albums, but with Citizen of Glass it was very much about glass sounds, and then this one it was about internal experience of sound. So I wanted to make synthesizers out of my own voice. So it's sort of my synthesizer. So yeah, but I'm completely aware of that cognitive distortion is that's a premise for everything.
Well, what you mentioned earlier also is quite interesting about cameras rolling, kind of finding your purpose, having this thing in life, but also that ripple effect, and then you doing what you do in a way. Is that something you think about, how your music might affect people? Kind of that ripple effect?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I think there is an intention in what I'm doing that is sort of a hope for understanding. And I don't know what the word is, connectedness with the people I've never met. So yeah, but I think it's impossible for me to comprehend as it is today, the way we are releasing music into the world, how it's going to be received.
Right.
But you can, maybe when you meet somebody, or I feel the most like I understand it when I meet somebody and talk with them directly.
There's one song in particular. Well, let me do it differently, because there's a couple of instrumental songs on there as well. You mentioned earlier that there's a different way of writing for you. That the words is something that comes later, or something that. How do you realize when a song needs words or not?
It's a little bit like if I feel like I'm up for the challenge of words, then I do it. And if I'm not, I'm like, no, this should just be me and the piano. Then I go that way. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's like sometimes when you touch and play an instrument, you can hear a voice singing something, or you can even hear the words, or you hear like, okay, this is the feeling the song is about. It just appears very clearly, and then then yeah, then I really try to follow that as best as I can. Yeah.
Last question then, because you say you still occasionally struggle with lyrics. What is the song that ended up on the album that you're most happy with how it turned out?
And lyrically,
Yes. Where you think you managed to capture what you wanted to say?
I think Island of Doom,
Okay.
because it's sort of there's two sides to the story, and I feel both sides are present. And I also love songs with two perspectives, and there are two perspectives in there that feel close to the story.
I wrote down one line from that song. I'm just another fool for the earth to swallow. Where did that line come from?
Is it okay I don't answer that question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Agnes, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.